Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Game Changer. I'm Mariam Zia. Pakistan and Iran share more than 900 kilometers of border, and both countries have various geopolitical as well as other interests as well. In today's program, we will be exploring the new emerging bilateral relationship between Pakistan and Iran. Earlier this week, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi met on the Pakistan-Iran border and inaugurated the first marketplace on the border between the two countries. Additionally, an electricity transmission line was also inaugurated by both leaders. In today's program, we will be exploring the emerging areas of cooperation between Pakistan and Iran. We will also be exploring and looking at the convergences and divergences when we talk about Pakistan-Iran relations in the emerging geopolitical environment. To discuss this and more, I'm joined in the studios by Mr. Shahyar Khan, who is expert in international affairs. Welcome to the program. We're also joined by Dr. Zafar Nawaz Jaspal, who is expert in international affairs. Welcome to the program. We're also joined online by Dr. Hasnain Javed, who is an economist and expert in international affairs. Welcome to the program. Mr. Shahyar, let me start with you. Of course, this is a very recent development when Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi inaugurated 100 megawatt Polan Gabd electricity transmission line, and in addition to this, Mand-Pishin border crossing and marketplace was also inaugurated. How do you see these developments when we look at these in the context of emerging bilateral relationship between Pakistan and Iran?
So, Mariam, on the face of it, when this meeting between President Raisi and Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif happened, it looked like a very regular meeting on the border, and they're like inaugurating some very, infrastructure projects. But this meeting and this start of this new era of bilateral cooperation, it has like huge regional implications. And if you remember, this comes from the backdrop of the Chinese brokered peace deal between Iran and Saudi Arabia.
Of course.
So historically, Pakistan and Iran are like very close neighbors. We've had various MOUs and like discussions on a lot of like bilateral cooperation, dating back to 2012, the Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline dating to the early 2000s. And all of these cooperations and these agreements, unfortunately, have just been reduced to rhetoric. And this relationship between Pakistan and Iran has been a victim of global geopolitics and power politics between superpowers.
How significant is the timing of this meeting?
This is very significant. Especially, I always look at these, breakthroughs from the perspective of the people from that area. And I had the opportunity of visiting this area. And as soon as this cooperation like starts, and it has already started, I've like personally seen these border markets, and these will play a huge role in basically turning the lives of the people on both sides of the border, and they will like have a lot of economic gains.
So how this is going to, specifically when we talk about how this is going to impact the local communities and their well-being, when we talk about this transmission line, and also this is one of the first marketplace, and there will be 6 more market openings at this border area.
So Mariam, we have to like look at it from the era of like formalizing economic relations. Pakistan and Iran have been neighbors since like thousands of years, and we have like this very long-standing historical linkages dating back to the times of like the Mughal era, like the previous era as well. This is this like whole cooperation, the exchange of like goods and services between Iran and Pakistan, especially the Balochistan area, they've been also happening since a very long time. This is the first time this is being formalized. So formal structures and formal agreements between Pakistan and Iran are happening for the first time. Border markets on both sides are being constructed, and they are now have been inaugurated. Previously, it was all informal. And Pakistan already has a very informal economy, and we need to make it more formal. Secondly, Pakistan is heavily dependent on oil imports. Pakistan is a net consumer of oil. And most of that we have to buy from the international markets, and we have to spend a huge like amount of foreign reserve that increases Pakistan's import bill. Iran has the 4th largest oil reserves in the world and 2nd largest gas reserves in the world. This cooperation, once it's like formalized, once it starts, like we're already taking electricity from Iran according to the agreements that were signed. This cooperation, when it like formalizes into oil and gas cooperation, it will help Pakistan immensely in reducing Pakistan's import bill. It will also reduce the cost of electricity. It will reduce the cost of oil and gas in Pakistan, and that will help greatly in bringing down the inflation and what Pakistani
Of course,
people are going through.
we are looking at the economic benefits for not only for Pakistan but across the border in Iran as well. Dr. Jaspal, how do you view these developments, specifically when we talk about connectivity and regional integration? How important is this development? And like earlier we discussed, how important is the timing looking at the region? Of course, there is the situation in Afghanistan as well. So how do you view this?
I think that we have to take into account the timing which you referred. There is an immense transformation is taking place at the regional as well as at the global geopolitics. And when we focus on this recent developments which Shariar mentioned and you earlier identified, if you just put them in a context, if you see that the neighboring provinces, it's the biggest Iranian province, Sistan, Balochistan, and it has a boundary with us and on our side, and at the same time it has a boundary with the Afghanistan, and then it has a boundary with the maritime boundary through the Chabahar. And it's a very important province or Iranian region from Chabahar, Zadan, Kandahar, and from Pishin to Zadan or this kind of thing. And we had already a railway track from that province, city capital, and then to Quetta. So connectivity is there historically, cultural, religious, political, economical. Now within this context we see what is going to happen in the future. If you see that Iran was sanctioned country, but now those sanctions are losing their impact on Iran, especially American sanction. Iranians' economic worth is there, as Shariar pointed out, its gas and oil reservoir, and then there is a strategic, a significant Shat al-Arab, tail Strait of Hormuz. It has a coastal line of the Gulf. Having said this, but it's a more geopolitical significance multiplied when Chinese and Iranians signed $400 billion strategic partnership, and that strategic partnership is, or almost 25. More than 60% is for the network connectivity. So now coming back what you have identified, regional connectivity, we are already there in the CPEC and Gwadar Belt and all these things. Now when these border markets, which was, I think that Pishin, this market which is announced, it's the first step towards the 6 border markets.
Of course.
So still 5 border markets will be constructed. And this market is very nearer to the CPEC when you link it and then going towards the Gwadar. So
but this is not the part of CPEC.
No, but this market is a connective
extension of course.
You can say, I'm saying nearer to the CPEC route.
Right.
And then if you build the economic free zone, naturally, automatically these markets will be linked. So by this way, if you have a hypothetically speaking 6 border markets, and now from there you are entering and doing a transit, it will be going to an impact of socio-economic development of the border regions, people who are living there, and normally all of them need a new economic vistas or trade opportunities. And that's the reason these are poverty-stricken people, and if there will be these kind of the projects materialize, and it's a very good step.
Right, this is going to be contributing to the socio-economic development of the region as well. Dr. Sen, when we talk about this marketplace opening as well as the electricity transmission line, how do you view these developments, especially when we talk about the expansion of relations between trade and economic relations between Pakistan and Iran? How significant are these developments?
Well, development of the, like electricity or oil, it is a very known factor for the trade between the Pakistan and Iran, and it's been very long, and we are waiting for that time to reach on so that we can change the whole regional politics on the basis of economic pivot. But very important thing has been occur is the Joint Border Trade Committee meeting on 39 MOUs, which is very much important. The first one is the opening additional border crossing points shall be open to the Kok Panjgar. And then is the establishment of a new joint border market at Mir Jave Taftan. This is called, it would be our first priority. And then is a Mashkhel, second priority. And then is a Shamasar, which would be our third priority. So Iranian side agreed to declare the Gabd Ramadan as a designated TIR border at the earliest of the conducting international transit trade from Pakistan toward the Turkey, Azerbaijan, Russia, and other regional countries via Iranian territory, which is very, very much important and significant. And then it is Iranian authorities agreed to provide, and which has never been happen, and it is, I'm telling you, it is going to be a miracle border. Opening, as they are agree to provide the shelter to Pakistan rice at Zaidan customs, and then is the both side agree to set up a maritime clearance station to the Pasa Bandar in Iran and Jiwani in Pakistan for the bilateral trade. Well, the Iran
Right. So,
grew
Dr. Saib,
oil.
when we talk about these, of course, important developments, how do you see what sectors are going to be most influenced by these developments? When we talk about specifically in the
See,
context of bilateral trade.
yes, a very pertinent question. See, in 2021, Iran has exported about the 614 million to Pakistan. So main product areas was is a petroleum gas is about 356 million. Then the refined petroleum, which is a very big area, and if we having a deal on it, it would be just now is 39.9. It will increase into much of the billions. It is in million now. So electricity is 38.9 million, which is a huge area. If we go on, it will increase in the billions. So during the last 24 years, the export of Iran to Pakistan have increased at an annualized rate of 13.5% from 29.5 million in 1997. So it would be, in total of 614. So the major areas are the textile, rice, fruit, machinery, and other things are going to be better in the history. But Pakistan-Iran economic relation, the volume of the bilateral trade exceed is about $2 billion, which has never been precedented in any time in history. It is the very first time in history. So several joint projects had been initiated in various sectors, including energy, agriculture, infrastructure, and the trade between Pakistan and Iran has been significant, although it has faced challenges due to the geopolitical
Of course,
factors.
we
So
will be
I'm not touching upon the
of course,
political
we will be
factors, but
discussing these
during
challenges as well as the overall bilateral trade relations between the two countries. But when we talk about these important border crossing and marketplaces, how do you see what steps would be needed for the smooth opening or operationalization of these two projects?
So Mariam, first of all, Pakistan and Iran now, after opening these borders, they're like in the process of finalizing the free trade agreements.
Of course.
So that's like very crucial in terms of like custom clearances, in terms of trades and tariffs, you know. So that needs to be resolved for these border markets to like start like functioning without a lot of hitches and like a lot of like bureaucratic red tape. So those free trade agreements are in the process of being finalized. They're including agricultural products. They're including like other fast-moving consumer goods. We've already discussed electricity and a lot of like IT exports that can also like take place. But first of all, looking at the historical flow of trade, so that's like fruits, that's like dry fruits, vegetables, and other goods that are being used on both sides of the border. Again, these people who will be conducting and like making use of these border markets, they are like really poverty stricken. These areas have one of the lowest human development index ratings across Pakistan as well. And this is like a great opportunity to uplift the socio-economic indicators of this area. And this is like providing people an opportunity to play their role in becoming part of the formal economy of Pakistan as well.
Of course. So can you provide us an overview of the current bilateral trade between Pakistan and Iran?
So in 2022-2023, Pakistan and Iran have had like a trade of around $2 billion.
Right.
So if you look at the global volume of trade, that's around $32 trillion. So this is like a very, very small drop in the ocean. And considering the fact that Pakistan and Iran are like next door neighbors, I personally think this is very abysmal numbers. And these will now...
But there have been a lot of factors, not only internal, but when we look over the geopolitical factors as well, right?
So that is why I mentioned earlier that trade between Iran and Pakistan has been taking place, and it has been historically taking place since like I think like over 100 years. This is the first time now it's being formalized. So all the trade that was happening between when there were no border markets, when there was no formal
it was informal, border crossings between the people.
So that was not really counted between as trade between Iran and Pakistan.
But now these developments have opened new avenues for enhanced bilateral trade cooperation between both the countries. We will be discussing more about it, but after a short break. Welcome back. We are exploring the enhancing relations between Pakistan and Iran. Dr. Jaspal, of course, when we talk about these important recent developments, how do you view these are going to impact the investment opportunities for both Pakistan and Iran in each other's countries, specifically when we talk about private businesses as well?
I think that in the border region, the most attractive areas are the coastal areas. And then if we see that there were opportunities for oil refineries or these kind of the things. Naturally, these raw material comes from the Iran. Naturally, when we and Iranians have these kind of the agreements, bilateral trade agreements and most favored nation agreement, which we are going to finalize, then the investment opportunities multiplied. And when you have a new border markets, naturally people will try to invest in those markets like warehouses or these kind of the things, then in order to have a trade goods of the agriculture or these kind of the things. Of course, it will attract I can say immense foreign direct investment, but there is a need to improve the security in the border region.
Of course, that is very important.
And in this context, unfortunately, in the Iran Sistan Balochistan province, there is a religious divide, and the ethnicity minority is Shia and the majority is Sunnis. Sunni Deobandis, and their conflict is there, and the three different kinds of the terrorist organization, or according to Iranian like Jandola, they are there. But of course, when there are more economic opportunities in the form of markets, trade, investment, then from the local areas, poverty will be erased or quashed by the investment projects. People will get more jobs. So naturally, the non-state actors, organizations will be not getting the recruits, or they are unable to radicalize them. That will be having a positive impact on the domestic both sides of the border
for the local
security, and
local
peoples will be having a different opportunities and definitely more investment.
Right. Dr. Hassan, when we talk about these developments and specifically about the overall bilateral economic relations between the two countries, how do you view what are the major MOUs between the two countries and how they are going to be enhancing the relations between the two countries? Of course, we were discussing earlier some of the key sectors. What are other sectors where there is potential for collaboration?
Yeah, along with the collaboration, there are, main sectors are the gas pipeline projects at glance, and then is the energy sector, and then we will be working in the agriculture sector. So these are the most recent one. But first, we need to identify the few of the very important things, like to why we need to identify the lack of a banking channel as the main obstacle in smooth trade. So we need to have the very much commercial linkages and bank linkages within the Iran. Then is the terrorism has also been the consistent fact in ruining Pakistan-Iran relations. So as Shehbaz said, we have to cover all these issues. Then is the Iranian Balochi insurgent groups. These are the very much important need to focus on a pertinent issue as including Jaydullah and the breakaway factions in Jeshul Adal and Jeshul Nasr, and based on the Sistan Balochistan province of Iran, and have deployed the substantial presence in the Pakistan-Iranian border belt of the Pakistan-Balochistan province. Because if we are not focusing on all these issues, we cannot,
Of course, security
process our
remains one of the key concerns when
ventures.
we talk
Then
about
is the
bilateral
smuggling,
trade
smuggling
relations.
in
So,
Iranian
how do
product.
you view the current state of security or strategic collaboration between the two countries? There are a number of areas in which both countries are cooperating as well.
Yes, of course. Yes, we have to identify all these issues first, and then we are going for the gas pipeline project. Then we will go for the infrastructure development. Then we will go for the commercial linkages and all the things. But smuggling of the Iranian product is a major problem for us. So we want to replicate in two main areas. One is their banking system, which is the Islamic banking system. It is a wonderful channelizing system. And then is a second challenge. I mean, immensely applicable system, which is unbelievable. Completely Islamic financial banking system, which is amazing. Then is their product, their domestic size product is amazing. I mean, you can have their jam and jerry's out to the international standard. You have the croissants of their Iranian product, amazingly. FMCG of their 100 types is amazing. But we need to stop the smuggling of the Iranian products. So Pakistan Arab Refinery Limited, Parco, as you discussed the different, ventures. So Parco we had been running is a 75% of the production capacity, and then is capacity won the government, and that it would be forced to shut down if the current crisis continue. Then is additional to the government was losing 1 billion in the revenue every day owing to the drop in the sale of the petroleum product because of the flooding of the market with the smuggled oil. So very much important to, seize this issue and cover this issue under the MOU. And I'm talking about all this under the 39 MOU, and extracting from
Right.
all these
So
important
Dr.
issues.
Hassan,
So
how do you access the
very important,
current
one very
trade
important thing
barriers
is the
between the two countries?
the
How do you
important
view
barrier is
of course.
high tariff imposed by Iran on the import of textile, surgical, and sport goods from Pakistan. So, as Shehbaz Sahab is discussing all these things, so we need to finalize the trade and tariff position in an accurate balance. So, free trade agreements is required, preferential agreement is required. So, non-trade barriers such as a visa fee on Pakistan truck drivers in the business community, attested fee, road tax, load tax, and other tax charge imposed by Iran must have to handle, and it should be the free trade agreement uh, at earliest, so that we can move
Of
on
course.
for the gas pipeline project and other projects.
Right, right. We are also joined online by Mr. Humayun Khan, who is expert international affairs. Welcome to the program, Mr. Humayun. Of course, when we talk about these bilateral relations between the two countries, specifically in the context of economic relations, how do you view what needs to be done to create a more conducive environment for increasing trade between the two countries?
It's very important that the political and the diplomatic relationship normalizes before you get into this thing. Historically, our relationship has been somewhat not very cordial with our neighbor Iran, and for that matter with Afghanistan as well. So our eastern western border was not stable for more than 30, 40, or 50 years. But now with the recent rapprochement, and we need to see this thing that, there is a big proxy war which was happening in the Middle East between two Islamic big giant countries, Saudi Arabia and Iran. And particularly after this rapprochement, with China basically under the Global Security Initiative uh, facilitated between Saudi Arabia and Iran, now things are getting better. When it comes to Pakistan, there is a flurry of visit from the Saudi leadership to Pakistan. There's a visit which just happened a week ago when Shehbaz Sharif, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif visited the Iranian president. They opened a market there. There was a discussion of preferential trade agreement, which Dr. Hasnan was mentioning. There's talk of normalization and expanding this bilateral relationship, which has huge potential, as everybody before me was talking about. But since the political and the diplomatic relationship was not very cordial, this relationship was not expanding. Now
So
that we
how
have
do you view
seen
the current political dynamics between Pakistan and Iran?
I think with this recent opening up of a border market, with talk of preferential trade agreement, with delegation visiting each other, there's a huge potential for Balochistan particularly, which is like adjacent to Iran as well. Belt and Road Initiative, of which China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is happening. We wanted to expand that to Central Asia, to other countries in Middle East. So I guess a bordering country like Iran, which is neighboring with us, has a huge potential. Iran is already part of China-Pakistan, part of Belt and Road Initiative. So if we could find a way, and there has been discussion for a very long time that Chabahar port and Gwadar port should be connected through a rail link. So if that should happen, this security issue, which we have been facing for a very long time, which has many dynamics, many different players are active in that particular area, that could really help Pakistan in terms of expanding Belt and Road Initiative into Iran and then on towards Middle East and other countries. And then we can benefit a lot in terms of expanding trade, enhance economic cooperation, people-to-people contact. And, you know, Pakistan has a huge population of Shia Muslims residing in Pakistan. And Iran is the leader of Shia Muslim. And there's a huge trade pilgrimage which could happen. And if we could facilitate in terms of visa, in terms of tourism, religious tourism could something which is something which Pakistan could benefit a lot if we could do this.
Right. So there's a lot of potential. Dr. Jaspal, when we talk about developments in the region, specifically about the political developments in the region, how do you view they are impacting the political economy of Pakistan-Iran relations?
I think that in this political developments in the region, you have to start with the rapprochement in the March between the Saudi Arabia and Iran through the China, and then it is opening for the Chinese investment in the Middle East, North Africa, or MENA, which we call it. Definitely, it will be going to improve the Chinese footprints in the South Asia, West Asia, and it had already in Central Asia or Euro-Asia. These political developments have been viewed that China is now bridging the gaps and assisting the rivals in the region to overcome their disputes, especially this since deadlock between the Iran and Saudi Arabia. Definitely these kind of the developments are very conducive for economic activities, and especially for Pakistan, because Pakistan has a strategic partnership with China and also strategic partner with Saudi Arabia. Pakistan always maintained a cordial relations with Iran, but due to the tension between Saudi Arabia and Iran, though we have a neutral stances, but sometimes this create a ill will. But now, when they have a good will, and then the Chinese are as a grantor, definitely it will be a good advantage for us. Another optimistic development is that Iranians have been always haunted since 1979 by the Americans, and they were checkmated, and whenever any state which was going to have a trade or mega investment project, especially Pakistan, the American sanctions was a threat. Now with the Chinese intervention and the other states' intervention, Iran is now getting more openness, and definitely we are the neighbor. Being a neighbor, having historical, cultural, political relations with Iran, it multiply our options.
But of course, US sanctions have been a significant factor when we talk about Iran's relations with other countries in the region. So how do you view that these US sanctions have impacted its relations with Pakistan, specifically when we talk about different projects that were in the pipeline, specifically Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline is one of the key projects that had been stalled due to these sanctions?
You very rightly identified that United States sanctions on Iran were always a major obstacle due to which Pakistan and Iran failed to move ahead. Though we know both states understand that border trade or the oil import, gas import from Iran, it is good for our economy, at the same time a healthy sign for the Iranians' economy. But if you recall that it's almost 1 decade that our Prime Minister and Iranian President had a formal meeting to start some energy project. with the 100 megawatt this electricity line. But the previous one was President Zardari when visited, and then the Iranian counterpart. In 2013 they signed the Iran-Pakistan-India pipeline, and then it was shortened to Iran-Pakistan. But when the Pakistan started work, Iranians on the other side built it. But whenever Pakistan started or have some kind of a initiative to start or build it, because it's required a very small portion to build, and then it connect with the southern Pak, and then with the entire Pakistan we have already gas pipeline network. But the Americans directly, overtly or covertly threatened for the sanction, third party sanction, or these kind of things. So this was a tested case for Pakistan, Iran pipeline gas for the two countries. When we talk about a mega legal project, so if an American sanctions was haunting these kind of projects. But recently when the Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and the Iranian president met and they signed the agreement, that germinates an optimism that those sanctions or the American sanctions will be going to have a lesser impact on our bilateral relation in the future.
Right. Mr. Shehbaz, what's your take on this? That when we talk about US sanctions, how do you view Pakistan's foreign policy as a balancing act between US and other neighbors in the region when we talk about specifically Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline project?
So, Mariam, like historically, Pakistan has always tried to have a neutral foreign policy when it comes to Iran. And other than the US, Pakistan has always maintained or tried to maintain a neutral relationship between Saudi and Iran as well. Even though Pakistan has historically had a tilt to Saudi Arabia because of economic dependency and like a lot of cooperation that goes on between.
But we have already witnessed delay in different initiatives because of US sanctions as well. Do you think that is going to change in future?
So historically, Pakistan has been very economically dependent on the US when it comes to US is Pakistan's largest export partner as well. Other than that, the second largest export market for Pakistan has been the European Union. So since the European Union and the US collaborate strategically on a lot of global areas and initiatives, it has been always very difficult for Pakistan to basically circle around the economic and financial sanctions that have always been there on Iran. Now, as we are moving towards more of a multipolar world, and China is increasingly asserting itself, and even Russia, let's not forget, Russia and Iran have had historical economic and cultural linkages, and Russia and Iran both are asserting themselves and have had some sort of trade or oil exchange going on, even previously before China brokered this deal between Saudi and Iran. China was one of the only countries in the world that got an exemption from the US because China is so dependent on Iranian energy.
To continue trade with Iran,
exactly,
of course.
Exactly. So that cooperation is now set to expand. And this is the lead that Pakistan was waiting for. And as the world moves more towards a more multipolar arrangement, there will be more opportunities for Pakistan to bypass financial sanctions as well.
Of course, we will be exploring those opportunities as well, but after a short break. We are talking about Pakistan's relations with Iran. Dr. Hasnain, when we talk about Pakistan's economy, of course, China-Pakistan economic corridor is a significant milestone when we talk about its economic development and different initiatives. How do you view the potential for CPEC in enhancing relations between Pakistan and Iran? And are there some initiatives in which both countries can collaborate?
Yeah, first and the foremost important thing is that Pakistan is importing 74 megawatt of electricity from Iran from bordering area of Balochistan, whose per unit cost is around 25 per unit. So currently Iran is exporting 144 megawatt of electricity to Pakistan and figuring in expect to double upon the completion of the power project in projects in Pakistan. Then Iran has the potential to export 500 megawatt of electricity to Pakistan. So in recent time, the Minister for the Power, Khurram Dastagir, on Sunday, met with his Iranian counterpart Ali Akbar Merbian at Tehran in March 2023. So, Iranian minister appreciated the authorities of Pakistan for the construction of transmission line to import the electricity from Iran to Gwadar on the fast pace, which is very much important for the CPEC project. So, in that matter of the supply of 100 megawatt additional electricity from Iran to Makrandavi in Pakistan through 132 kV Polan Gabd and which would we call it Gwadar port transmission line in under discussion. So power project was suspended due to difficulties of quite some time, and then two sides achieved success in June 22 by agreeing to signing amendment in existing agreement and operating the first phase of the project by constructing 29-kilometer transmission line till Jivani, which will help overcome electricity shortage in that area. So, as I told you, that Pakistan is importing about 74 megawatt of electricity. So, that shortfall will cover very soon, and we will have the more project and the gas line projects. As told you earlier, that if we reduce all these hurdles, like smuggling and other
Of
things and
course.
other hurdles, if it goes down, it will be, precedented friendship. And furthermore, I just wanted to appreciate on the two matter. Firstly, Iran has a tremendous in dealing with this economic responsibility despite a number of sanctions by the international community. So there is ability to keep their economic afloat in remarkable tale of the financial wisdom. That is because of the two brilliant strategy. I just wanted to name it. I'll not go into details. So first is
Right.
Iran focused on strengthening the industry by focusing on the manufacturing and importing products. Second is their Islamic banking system in Iran, and which is the case of Risalat Islamic banking system, which we'll call it BAAP. So these are the two areas where we have to replicate. And second is that how they introduce their domestic FMCGs domestic product system. So China is at the back of Iran now. So geopolitical situation is way too different is now. So we have to replicate few of the domestic products under the challenging environment as we are facing now. So as we are short in
Right.
the foreign reserve, so we have to replicate all these two very important things under the
Of course.
financial channel.
Of course, we have to replicate these. But Mr. Humayun, when we talk about CPEC, how do you view that the current geopolitical dynamics and regional considerations are going to be impacting the potential involvement of Iran in CPEC and Iran-Pakistan relations in future?
I guess it has very, very positive potential with the recent development. Once Dr. Jaswal was earlier mentioning about this rapprochement facilitated by the Chinese side between Saudi Arabia and Iran. This was the biggest, one of the issues between not enhancing the trade between these countries. Now that there is a rapprochement, we have seen positive signs from both the sides. China-Pakistan economic corridor is between China and Pakistan, but since China has heavily invested in Iran, and Iran is also part of many different organizations which are very much effective in this region, particularly Shanghai Cooperation Organization, of which it has become a full member recently last year, and now it will be assuming the membership. So I guess these mechanisms really help Pakistan to enhance the Belt and Road Initiative project, which it has under the name of CPEC, with Iran. China, for last couple of years, have invested or promised to invest up to the tune of 300 to 400 billion US dollars in Iranian oil, gas, and petrochemical industry. So once the China-Pakistan economic corridor infrastructure is ready, I guess China provides Iran a very shortest route via Pakistan. These
Of course.
oil and gas routes could be channeled from this to the Xinjiang region. Pakistan could benefit immensely through this, because otherwise the trade which is happening between them is via the Indian Ocean and through the sea route. So the land route is something which could be very potentially very important for Pakistan to gain revenue from this. Other than
Of
that,
course.
if these countries collaborate with each other, there was a huge concern of security vis-a-vis Afghanistan. So now there is a regional consensus being developed between the regional countries of Afghanistan to stabilize Afghanistan. So Pakistan and Iran are the two countries which have been affected very significantly with the chaos which is existing in Afghanistan. So if we could collaborate on finding a regional consensus on a settlement issue, that could be something which would be a game changer for this region as well.
Of course, this is going to be a game changer for region as well when we talk about security developments as well. So, Dr. Jaspal, when we talk about these different developments, how do you see, of course, energy remains one of the key areas of cooperation between the two countries, but how do you view the future trajectory of relations between Pakistan and Iran? And what are some of the key sectors that you see emerging in coming days?
I think that the key areas are starting from the economics, of course, oil and gas, power generation, and then technology, IT cooperation. That is a very important. A few months back, we had a big Iranian delegation here from their universities, and they were talking about educational cooperation. Then agriculture products or these are very important areas where we can work together. And of course, besides the economic stability, there's a need of security stability. These militant organizations, they on the both sides of the Iran-Pakistan border, they are involved. So when we start cooperating with each other, definitely we are able to control them. Recently, I think yesterday, 5 Iranian soldiers or security personnel were martyred, 6, yes. And their Foreign Office requested Pakistan, and Pakistan also condemned and promised to assist them. That is a big important area for working together. And then third is the politically or diplomatically. Iran politically and diplomatically supported Pakistan internationally. We do support. But now the new development says that when the Saudis are neutralized and the Chinese are there, certainly Pakistan's all partners are with the Iran, so definitely that facilitate Pakistan and Iran to work more.
There is a lot of potential for enhancing relations, but still there remains complexities in the relations. So how do you see what needs to be done to further these relations, and specifically when we talk about the security situation that keep on emerging on the border areas between the two countries, how to build the trust between two nations?
So Mariam, I am a firm believer in the fact that once there are economic linkages, when there is regional cooperation, when there is opportunity to uplift socio-economic indicators, then security and geopolitics, they take a backseat. So first of all, there is like a foremost requirement of developing these economic linkages, developing these regional cooperation frameworks to be practically implemented, and then the security issues will also resolve themselves. Right now, there are like a lot of like resentment building on the Indian side. As soon as Iran basically joined the CPEC, it was not like something that was liked by India. And Iran basically made a very logical and a rational decision to become part of this overall BRI network, because China is one of its biggest customers, and it's a net importer of energy as well. And Iran has a golden opportunity. If it becomes part of the whole CPEC framework, it can, through Pakistan, access the Chinese market very efficiently. Pakistan, Iran, under the leadership of China, which is emerging very strongly in this whole area, will also cooperate on Afghanistan as well. Historically, Pakistan and Iran haven't seen eye to eye in Afghanistan, as well as Iran has always supported the Northern Alliance previously, and Pakistan was supporting the Taliban. Now there is this opportunity. Now that there is mutual cooperation and like mutual agreement on security, on regional cooperation under the GSI framework implemented by China, now I think there is a cooperation that is like emerging in resolving the security implications emanating out of Afghanistan as well.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Shehbaz Khan, for joining in today's program.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zafar Nawaz Jaspal, for being with us in today's program. Thank you very much, Dr. Hussain Javed, for joining us in today's program. Thank you very much, Mr. Humayun Khan, for being with us in today's program. In today's program, we explored the emerging relations between Pakistan and Iran. Of course, there's a lot of potential when we talk about the economic relations between Pakistan and Iran, but both countries have a history of economic relations as well as cultural exchanges, religious affinities as well. So there's a lot of potential when we talk about relations between the two countries. Of course, there are geopolitical considerations as well, but both countries need to work on these issues for greater regional connectivity. That's all from Game Changer tonight. Take care. Allah Hafiz.